All right, all right, all right. Hey, thank you for joining us for another episode of The Color of Truth. So, today's topic is going to be violence in America, and we'll be talking about how different forms of violence occur and whether or not any of us are considered to be safe when it comes to the violence that's going on out here nowadays. Before we get started, I'm going to go ahead and I'll introduce my lovely co host, Miss D. How are you this evening?
Dealing with this storm out here right now, but other than that, everything is all good. How about you, Miss Roxy?
Pretty good. Pretty good. Last minute weekend struggles,
Oh, I hear you.
one day at a time. I hope
Hey,
everything is
I've been in the struggle today
that
too.
way.
It's been a long day, so I hear you.
I dig it. Did you have to work today?
Yes, I work every day.
Understood. Understood. Well, I Miss Monet just joined us today, so I'll ask you, how are you today, Miss Monet? How are you feeling? Are you here with us?
She's muted.
Um,
Okay, yay, I got it. I got it. Yay, me. I got it unmuted. I got it unmuted. Yay. I'm doing excellent, sisters. I'm sorry for being so late. Had some family issues, but I am doing excellent. I guess I'm blessed, right?
oh
Oh
my
I
Lord.
gosh.
hear you.
So, um, today's topic is violence, and we're talking about different forms of violence. So, um, I guess to kick us off, because we've had so many different things that have been going on um, lately, especially gun violence is really prevalent. Domestic violence is always prevalent. That's something that COVID it's been person on person violence. COVID has made it a lot worse on individuals and families when it comes to the violence that's going on. We've even had different so now we've had different government officials that have stepped up and are trying to hurry up and talk about all of the violence that's going on out here. I know President Biden made one of those address the nation, um, stop everything, stop what you're doing, so that I can go ahead and tell you about what's going on in the world. Um, where he just shut down everything for a second to talk about the violence that was going on in the country because of the situation that had happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma. That's the most recent one that we just had not too long ago. That was the one that occurred on Wednesday night. Um, there was a gunman that was armed with a big 15, a AR-15 rifle, and a handgun, and he had ran into the hospital and killed 3 employees and a patient. Said that he was targeting the surgeon who had recently performed his back surgery. He felt like he didn't do it right, so he got upset and went in to kill the surgeon that did it. But he ended up hurting um, 4 innocent people. So um, not only that, there's countless massacres of things that have been going on, different violent occurrences that have been happening lately that a lot of are out of control, out of our control, out of the hands of the people who were involved. A lot of them didn't even know that it was going to happen. I'm sure that the kids got up that morning and went to school and they didn't think that they were going to be killed. Tell me, Ms. D, what do you think about the violence that's been going on lately?
First of all, X'd out, deleted. You're trying to get us flagged, ma'am. Uh, but
That's
for
right.
me,
X delete.
you got some technical difficulties, Monet.
Uh-oh.
So,
Oh, I was like,
well, for me, I guess I don't even know where to start. So I guess we'll start with the Buffalo incident, where the 10 individuals were deleted. racially motivated crime, of course. And I guess one of the things that bothers me most about it is one, first of all, just the idea of the racism, the race being racially targeted, not feeling safe in certain environments. I've actually decided I'm going to stop shopping at predominantly Black establishments for the time being, just because of where they predominantly hang out at, because you never know. There are a lot of situations that you can prepare for and some that you can't. And when you're just casually in a grocery store, picking up a couple of items, getting your groceries for the week, you're an unsuspecting individual. So those kind of moments hit you like really, really hard. And my heart goes out to all of those, whether from the Buffalo incident to the Uvalde incident, the Tulsa incident. And I heard there were 2 incidents in Tulsa. But I think they're only talking about the one that occurred at the hospital. But I think there were 2 incidents in Tulsa. But it appears that the mass shootings are on the rise. But I don't know if I feel like all of the measures that our current administration is trying to push is actually going to solve anything. And a lot of it is because if you look at, like, say, you can go look at like the FBI data, or you can look at when they actually had, I don't know if you remember this, but in 1994, there was a assault rifle ban that Clinton signed. And it was like a 10-year ban, I think it was. It expired like in 2004, something like that. And from all of the data that I've looked at, it doesn't look like there was a significant drop in the number of deaths when they did the assault rifle ban. However, they did see a significant increase in the shootings after that ban expired. I think a lot of that can be attributed to the fact that there was a 10-year period where those items were not allowed to be purchased. And then all of a sudden, now you got 10 years worth of individuals, or pretty much a generation, that is now rushing out to buy these assault type style rifles. But as far as the banning the assault rifle, I just don't know if that would solve necessarily the problem. And one of my concerns with that is I know we all get bent out of shape about those incidents. They happen quick. A lot of lives are lost really, really fast. And like I said, you can't necessarily prepare for those moments in life. But if you compare those mass shootings to like the serial deleters, you got the John Wayne Gacy's of the world, who's got 33, possibly more bodies to his name. You got who is it? The Ted Bundys. You got so many of those individuals that have had massive deletions throughout their spree of going on these little deleting events. And to me, even though you can't necessarily compare one to the other, we all suffer loss the same. It doesn't matter why you lose or how you lose a loved one. We suffer those losses the same. I just don't know how I feel about the measures that they're actually trying to put in place to try to solve those issues. Because another concern, like I was talking about the FBI data. So the FBI collected some data, and on one of the years, they actually collected data that showed out of 13,000 homicides that they tracked, 10,000 of those homicides were, a little over 10,000 were attributed to firearms homicides. But only under 700 of those actually came from assault rifles. Everything else was a handgun. So for me, and not only that, a lot of the numbers of these homicides, they actually are self-deletions. It's a lot of people committing suicide. And that's unfortunate as well, too. But if you ban assault rifles that in 1 year they accounted for 600 or little under 700 of the actual deaths that occurred versus the handgun violence, does that actually solve a crime? Does it actually solve the problem that we are currently in? And I've always said, as long as weapons are being made for wars, there's always going to be access to them, whether it be underground, black market, whatever the case may be. A criminal doesn't care about a law. The criminal didn't care about committing the act of murder. They didn't care about that. So what makes you think they're going to have any regard with gun laws that you try to implement? So those individuals are always going to be able to gain some type of access. It might be a little harder. It may be a longer process. But anybody who really wants to get their hands on an assault rifle can find a way to get their hands on an assault rifle as long as we're producing them for wars. And I mean, that's just the honest truth. And we're not going to stop producing them for wars. So if we're not going to stop producing them altogether, if we're not going to, you know what I'm saying? How do you actually stop an individual from getting access to something that is banned, has been illegal, no different from drugs? Drugs, for the most part, are illegal. But how many drugs are swarming America currently today? So does it actually solve the problem that we're facing to put bans on just assault rifles if most of the homicide deaths that we see in America are attributed to handguns as opposed to assault style rifles, like the ARs and things of that nature?
I agree. I think that a lot of times I know that I'll say that it's not the guns that are the problem. It's the people that are mishandling the firearms that are the problem. They're the ones that are out here deleting people for a reason or no reason at all. Have you heard about the Protecting Our Kids Act?
No, I hadn't heard about that one. The only one I've heard is
a bill that they...
Go ahead.
I don't know. Go ahead.
No,
I was just going to tell you it is a bill that they... Look, I'm like, I just keep on talking, don't I?
No, go ahead, Roxy. Go ahead.
They call it the Protecting Our Kids Act. It's a bill that they added to the House docket right after that school shooting that happened in Texas. After all of those children had lost their lives, it puts a lot of different restrictions on the ability to be able to get guns, purchase guns. It's raising the age limit from 18 up to 21, and then it makes it a federal offense for you to be able to purchase or own big firearms or firearms in mass quantities, or to be able to hold house large amounts of bullets at a time. So they're supposed to vote on it next week to see if they can get it passed to help curb some of the losses that we've been receiving due to violence. But they have limited gun policies already, so I feel like it's supposed to place some kind of a red flag policy on states to disable them from being able to purchase the guns. But we already have a lot of our states that have red flag policies, and it's not helping the situation at all. So I just wanted to know what you thought about maybe raising the age limit on the guns purchases would help limit the actual acts themselves.
You know what? I can't say that I'm opposed to that. I was actually talking to a friend about that earlier today. And I'm not necessarily opposed to that because a lot of the data actually shows that as far as like the school shootings go, the majority of those school shootings do come from underage individuals. They're the 18 to 19-year-olds, things of that nature. So I'm not necessarily opposed to that. The only contradiction I see in that is if you raise the age to 21, which, don't get me wrong, I get it, because think about it, at 18, how many of us are actually mature? I mean, let's just be clear about that. But yet still, at the age of 18, you're mandated by law to sign up for the draft. Men aren't anyway. So but like I said, I'm not opposed to it because you have to be 21 to purchase liquor. You have to be 20. Have they moved the purchase of cigarettes up to 21, or is it just 19?
No, it was 21.
Okay, so if you have to be 21 to purchase alcohol and tobacco, I'm not against raising that age limit to 21, allowing people to get a little bit more maturity under their belt. But still, like I said, I'm not opposed to it. I think that would probably be a good start to curb a lot of the issues that are occurring in the school. Because where the children are the victims, it's just a different kind of pain when you see children being slaughtered like that. And that's one of the things that bothered me about the Uvalde shooting was the 78-minute response time from law enforcement. And the more I heard about this story, the more video footage I watched, the more pissed off I got, because the individuals that are trained, highly trained to engage in combat style, situations, the ones that are supposed to be the protectors, are supposed to be the providers, the ones that are supposed to run in their head first. The problem I have with it is every time you hear a story about an unarmed man dying at the hands of those chosen to protect and serve or sworn to protect and serve, you always hear the "I feared for my life," or "they were reaching," or "I thought they had a
Yep.
gun." So when you thought they had a gun, or when you didn't know a gun was in existence, all
You
of a
still
sudden you're
shot.
Billy Badass and you want to
Yep.
start firing off bullets everywhere. But
Say
when
that.
there's a live shooter on the scene and children are being slaughtered, you stand back and decide, well, we're going to wait until maybe he decides to give his step up, or whatever their reasoning is. I have no idea what the reason is, but it's so sickening to me to see you be so gung-ho when you thought somebody had a gun, but not have that same energy when people are actually losing their lives. You're listening to gunfire while you're standing outside. And not
For
only
a
did
whole hour.
they not respond, they wouldn't let the parents go in there and rescue their children. And
And there was a
if
parent
I
that
had a
said,
bit,
"Are you scared? Are you scared to get shot? Are you? I mean, really? Come on, go get my baby." I
right.
feel
And
them.
if it had been me, I probably would have been another individual that was laid out on the ground, because you couldn't have stopped me from going in there to
Yep.
get my baby
Say
if
that.
you
You
were
wouldn't have
too
stopped
afraid to
me.
run in there. You couldn't have stopped me from going to get my baby. There is
You would
no
not
way
have
in
stopped
hell.
me. You would have said, "Oh yeah, she's going down. Yeah, I'm gonna have to, because I'm telling you now, I'm not taking no for an answer. You won't take your ass in there. I'm taking my ass in there. Somebody hand me that gun. Shit, fuck it. I go in there my damn self. I don't need. I'm gonna get my kid. Okay, I'm gonna get my kid."
Yeah.
And
And to
they
hear
actually
those
stood out
mothers,
there, but they actually stood out there for a whole hour. So not
right.
only did they do the 7 minutes, I mean, the response time, yeah, 7 minutes, or I think you said 5 to 7 minutes they were there. You actually waited 53 more minutes.
I thought it was 78. I thought it was 78 minutes that they were out there, because it was over
Oh,
an hour.
okay, yes, okay, 70, exactly. Okay, you're right, a little bit over an hour, but y'all waited. Y'all didn't move. Y'all was scared of him. That's why none of y'all went in there. Y'all was scared.
But how do you
You
get
didn't
to
need
be
no
scared?
backup. It's
How do
one
you
of
get
him.
to But how do you get to be scared when that's the job you signed up for? Okay,
Period.
you got the person who signs up for the military, right? They want to serve their country, hoorah, and a war breaks out. They go overseas to fight these wars. That individual does not get to stand behind a tree and say, "You know what? I'm not engaging because I'm scared." So how
Not
does
at
law
all.
enforcement get to not engage because they're scared? If you, as an adult who signed up for this job, you are the one who took that oath to protect and serve. What do you think those babies in that school were feeling in that moment? And to hear those parents crying out about
Mhm.
why those officers weren't responding, why they weren't moving fast enough, why they were just standing out there barricading the school. To hear those mothers' cries was heartbreaking. It was absolutely heartbreaking. But for them to just sit out there and just, I don't know what the reason it is. I hear they're investigating it, but every
They
last
said
one of
they
them,
needed.
everybody, every
They said
cop,
they needed more backup. They needed more backup for one person that was shooting. They needed more backup, regardless of how many rounds that he had. Come to find out, he had what, 7 to maybe 10 clips. But regardless of the fact, you needed more manpower. That's why they did not go in, because they needed more manpower.
so for every cop that was standing out there, for every lieutenant that he had, for
Yep.
everybody that made a decision that had an
15 to
impact
20 of them.
on those officers not running inside that building, all of them need to be fired.
All
Every
of them.
last one. They all need their pension stripped from them. Their pension should go to those families who lost and had to
Yep.
bury their children. They ought to lose everything because you
Every single
signed up
one
for
that
that
did
job.
not, every single one that did not engage or go in. I don't care if you was waiting. My thing is, if you did not go in, okay, well, somebody told you not to. Okay, fine. Guess what? Yours is taken too, because these are lives. No one had no judgment call at all. Your judgment call was to wait for the military to get in, so y'all can go ahead and do that. We don't got time to wait. He is shooting. He is an active shooter. You want us to wait, and that's what they did, and they allowed them babies to get hurt.
So how do y'all feel about them talking about arming the students? I mean, the teachers in those schools now.
Nope.
So are they literally going to like deputize all the teachers across the country now?
That's what they're trying to. They said that they were going to make sure that the teachers did have guns, but I say that's a bad idea too, because there's kids that slick, like period, point blank. He's still mad. He still know there's gun access. Period. Somebody know there's gun access. I'm mad. I'm going up there. I'm going to school, and guess what? I'm gonna take the gun and I'm gonna shoot everybody. It's still hazardous. No, you need security. Somebody that's ready to shoot.
The problem with this, I'm not necessarily opposed to the teachers being armed. The problem I have with that is we already know that some teachers do some outlandish things. There have been some hideous stories about teachers. I don't want to say the word abusing kids, but there have been some stories out there about teachers taking things a little bit too far. Even if you consider stories where teachers are cutting off students' hair, who gives you the audacity or the authority to put scissors or shears up to my child's hair and cut it? So do you trust those individuals to make those type of, not that I'm opposed, because I do feel like everybody should be entitled to protect themselves. Every adult should be entitled to protect themselves. I stand behind the Second Amendment right. I don't see anything wrong with that. I just hesitate on whether or not these teachers are going to be trained to the point that they're able to react and respond in those situations responsibly, and not cause any more deaths than we already see. Are they going to be good at target practice? Are they just going to be firing off at the hip, and other children are going to be possibly losing their lives because of this, you just automatically wanting to deputize everybody? So that would kind of sort of be my concern, even though I can't say that I'm 100% opposed to it, because I do feel like in those situations, you never know when they're going to come up. I feel like everybody should be entitled to protect themselves.
Not in school. It's too much that goes down. There's riots and there's multiple fights. There's a lot of fights. There's a lot of chaos and craziness that happens in school. There's a lot of kids that's already in harm's way, and then they're already in harm's way with the fight break out. If there's a cafeteria food fight, you're already in harm's way. I say no. If anything, you work more on security, maybe have some tasers, if that. I don't know. I just know
the school doors. How about that?
Yeah, period. Like, I know a couple schools, not to be funny, you can't come in without that buzz, without the buzzer, like period, point blank. There is no pull the door, you gonna get in regardless. Nah, homie, you're not coming in without that door buzzer. Like, even the kids will look at you, like everybody look at you like you crazy because you're not getting in without the buzzer.
I mean, even the buzzer, though, when I'm going to tell you, when I was in high school and I went to school in Detroit, we had detectors. So if you came through the school building door, you went through the metal detector. And you couldn't come up in the school building with no guns or no knives because they hadn't already dealt with that so many times that they put the metal detectors and things of that sort into the school. We had security in our school. That walked the halls and made sure that the kids didn't roam the hallways. It wasn't the teachers that was out there. The teachers spent their time teaching. They had real police officers and armed security guards that were in the hallways, making sure that the hallways were secure, that kids weren't out skipping in the hallways, outside, around the building, and that they couldn't bring anything in that they didn't have any business carrying in. And to answer your question, for me, I think that I don't think that the teacher should be able to bring guns into the school building. I think that it will cause more harm than good because
I can see that.
Not only are the kids slick and the teachers irresponsible, I think that it just takes one mistake for a teacher to accidentally leave their drawer open or go to the bathroom and come back, and then the students that got into their stuff, and the next thing you know, it's a whole bunch of chaos because they know that Mr. Jones leave his drawer open and go to lunch every day from 2 to 3.
And what would be the rules?
I think that they should be more strict. Maybe they should bring.
What would be the rules of engagement? At what point in time would the teacher be allowed to actually draw their weapon? Right, but at what point in time would a techer be allowed?
Not be against no kid.
Exactly. That's another issue. What it would be their rules of engagement. And then they got to remember the rules of engagement, and they trying to teach the kids, and it's just a whole lot. They need security. Security, everybody needs security of their own. You know what I'm saying? Like it needs to be a whole separate position, like sis said, like there's security walking around in the hallways, like get to where you need to be and making sure the door is locked, nobody in the bathroom, hiding, skipping, what have you. Ain't none of that.
But the problem with that is they're going to say we don't have the funding for it.
Kids only do what they
Shit. That's where it comes for the safety. That's safety right there. There's a lot of safety funds that they always seem to have. Department of Homeland, or what is it called? But whatever it is, I forget what it's called. But they have a safety. They have safeties, and they have safety money. So
if we have billions of dollars to send over to somewhere else in order to help another country to be able to get back on their feet and purchase guns and sustain themselves and fight, then we should have some money to be able to save our kids while they're at home. There's no reason why there's been more than 27 shootings in the school buildings over the course of the last year. That's ridiculous. There should be some changes that's made. We need to figure out a better way to be able to spend our dollars.
I agree. Like I said, they're going to say
we got
funding is an issue. But they're going to say funding is an issue.
Funding ain't never an issue. How they make paper money every day, man.
Now, even if they didn't make it, they need to figure it out. They take stuff away from other stuff all the time. These kids ain't had no school books in years. They blamed it on
years. What? And they wonder why our kids can't retain the information. Kids can't retain that information because they're too busy not having books. They can't take that book home. They can't study. Like that's.
They can't even get a ride home. What do you mean? They're taking away these kids' buses.
Yes, no transportation.
Like
no school transportation. But minus that. But minus that. But on top of that, let me say not minus that. On top of that, there has been just a lot of shootings under the age of 25. Like these babies aren't able to even live towards 21, 25. Like they're dying. They're killing each other. They're getting hold of these military or whatever type of rifles, semi-automatic, infrared, laser beam shot type of rifles, whatever you want to call it. And they just doing just way too much. They thinking it's not a real video game out here. Like I get brownie points for killing people. Like.
But I must tell you, some of that starts at home, because a lot of these kids that we talking about getting deleted are not even getting deleted in the school building. There's a lot of people that are hurting themselves right at home, sitting in the bathroom, tube and TikTok, and the guns that they found in their mom and daddy's top drawer, killing not only themselves but their cousins and their siblings. I read about the little
trying to show off.
2-year-old killed the 2-year-old brother in the car while the parents was inside of the store. Left him in the car, and again they got out of the glove box. Like,
but I also heard about a reckless mother allowing their kid to shoot somebody too.
Oh, giving them the 10-year-old girl. I think was that in Florida?
Yeah, gave her the gun and everything.
The mother got to fighting with somebody, and she handed her the bag, and the child took the gun out and shot the neighbor or whoever that was.
Yes.
Yes, man. I don't even know how I feel about it. Did it ever come out that the mother was giving her the bag with the intention of wanting her daughter to pull that gun out? Or was that just something that just happened? The daughter was she just throwing the bag and the daughter got it and realized that there was a pistol in there and she decided to pull it out? I haven't figured that part out yet.
I haven't figured that part out neither, but I have just thinking, like, if you've already killed before and you know your mom has a gun in her purse and your mom gives you her gun in her, I apologize, delete it. And you know what I'm saying? My mom give me her purse knowing it is what it is in that purse to do what I need to do. I think you kind of gave it to her for her to do that because you knew that was already that type of mentality that she has because you're being hurt. So I'm going to protect my mom at all costs, just like, vice versa. Mom's going to protect the baby. But, baby like, oh, my mom. So she, wanted to say, okay, guess what? You're not going to keep hitting my mom. Delete.
Yeah, I just don't know at 10 years old where that mentality comes from. Like I said, either she knew her mother was carrying all the time, and maybe I have no idea. I don't know if she knew her mother was always carrying, if it just happened by circumstance. I don't know what the case may be, but to pull out a gun because but so was her mother the aggressor, or was the neighbor the aggressor in that situation?
I would say it really don't matter, because if we both talking yin yang,
Hold up.
but if we both talking yin yang, you know what I'm saying? If we both neighbors and we talking yin yang, it's gonna get heated. It's gonna, you know what I mean? It's gonna get heated. It don't, you know what I'm saying? We gonna duke it out. I mean, if you losing, you losing. You don't pick up a gun, or you don't give your baby a purse to get to shooting. Like, you just take that L. You know what I'm saying? Some people just need to learn how to take an L. You know, people get scared to take an L. I don't understand how you live to see another day. I mean, like, I know everybody done seen the movie. Everybody done seen the movie, y'all. We all seen the movie. You got them hands, throw them hands, put down that gun. You a man without the gun, so you say, then show that then. Put them hands up, rock with them. If you get rocked out, then hey, remember what Smokey said. You got knocked out, but you live to see the next day, though.
But you know, you're not going to see that in this generation of people. They don't know anything about they barely know how to ride a bicycle without, you know, falling down and acting like it's the end of the world. So they respond different. They don't react the way everybody else react. They don't have any rationale. They don't have a lot of common sense. They don't have a lot of discipline that's being taught at home or being learned at home. So a lot of that I could say I attribute to that. But does that go back to single motherism and having no fathers in these homes? Because think about it. Most of the mass shooters,
I think
a lot of those, right, like the young kids, where were the fathers at?
So I think one was standing outside arguing with the mama when he.
Who? Which one?
There was two little boys in the car, and I can't exactly remember where it happened at, but I know the two little boys was in the car. The mom and dad had went in the store. They came back out. They were out there arguing, and then they ended up turning around. One of the little boy had shot the brother.
I didn't hear about that.
Right. And all of them was standing, the mom and dad standing outside of the car arguing. Turn around because they heard the gunshot.
Really?
And then both of the parents went to jail. The children. Yep.
I did hear about that.
I agree that those parents should suffer some consequences, because the first thing they teach you when you taking any self-defense classes, if you've been to a range, that's the first thing they teach you when it all depends on what state you live in, because now in Texas, you don't have to go through that whole process anymore since we got that constitutional right to carry. But as much as I can say I stand behind the Second Amendment, I think everybody should be entitled to defend themselves, because criminals are always going to have access to guns. So if you take them away from law-abiding citizens, what you do is take away our defense mechanisms, because they're going to have it. So I would rather have my protection than not have it. But I do feel like even if you're not going to have the laws in place that, you know, whether they be red flag laws, and I'm not for red flag laws at all, but regardless of what kind of restrictions you try to put on gun purchases, I do feel like anytime anybody goes into any establishment to purchase a gun or any firearm, they should be trained on how to use that gun, how to load that gun, how to clean that gun, how to take apart that gun, and what the proper handling measures are for every single gun that you purchase. I think that should be mandatory. Nobody who's never been to a range, who's never fired off a gun before, should be able to walk into any store, buy a gun, and walk out today. Everyone should be required to know how to handle a gun, to understand what it means, to understand what gun safety means. And that's one of the first things they teach you. You're responsible when you purchase that gun. You are responsible when you pull the trigger. I don't care what your target is. I don't care if you are justified in pulling a trigger, whether there's an intruder in the house or whatever the case may be. You can be justified in actually pulling out your gun and pulling that trigger. But if you miss your target and that bullet lands somewhere else, hit a neighbor or somebody, a bystander crossing the street, you're responsible for wherever that bullet goes once you pull that trigger. So I don't see how anybody should have a problem with implementing at least that measure. If you go purchase a gun, you should be required to go to the range with an instructor on how to properly utilize that gun, taking it apart and everything. Because even if you know, you can go to all the target practices all you want, and you could be a great shot. If you don't know how to take your gun apart and clean it, you can still cause just as much damage. Your gun can lock up on you. You can have backfiring situations. There are a lot of issues that come with your guns not being properly maintained and cleaned as well.
That's
and I
true.
think everybody needs
And
to
I
know
mean, I'm
how
over
to
here
handle.
just thinking like,
Hmm?
oh no, go ahead.
No, go ahead, Rox.
I agree with you 100%. Look, I'm like, I agree with you 100%. Now, they need to know how to handle them. They need to know how to put them away and lock them up, especially those who have little people, because a lot
Right.
of those guns are coming from home. They're taking them from home. They're not old enough to buy no gun,
Mm-hmm.
so they're getting them from somewhere. Usually, it comes from the home.
Right. So yeah, I do feel like those
So
parents in
parents need to
most.
be more mindful and start watching their kids too.
Yeah, they those parents do need to be
Go
held
ahead.
responsible because you're responsible for raising up your kids. You're responsible for what they become. You can't you're supposed to gear them down the right path. So whatever happens while those children are under your care in your home, between the age of newborn to 18 or whatever age they actually leave your house, you should bear responsibility for those kids and their actions. I know you can't always be around them. If it's not your gun that they get access to, you have no control over that. But what happens in that house if they are literally getting a gun out of mom's shoebox in the closet or in dad's toolbox in the man cave? Then yeah, I do believe that those parents should hold responsibility for that. I really do, because even as a parent, if you have guns in the house as an adult, first of all, your children should understand what gun safety is. If I had children, there is no way if I own a gun, my children are not going to understand what gun safety is. You can't just, as an adult. Matter of fact, I know an individual that has quite a few handguns and stuff in the house, right? And I don't knock that, but at the same time, they have a 13, 14-year-old child in the house that has no idea about any guns whatsoever. And I said, how can you have this much ammo and guns in the house and not teach your 14-year-old about gun safety? You have, and don't get me wrong, he keeps everything locked up. I get all that, but still, in order for you to feel like you need that much ammo or that many guns or rifles or whatever the case may be, how can you simultaneously have a child in the house that's that old that you haven't taught anything about gun safety?
Yes,
How?
I know that's right. That don't make no sense. To a certain extent, you would want to teach them a little bit of something, since you have so many.
Exactly.
Like, what you preparing for, my home skillet? What you preparing for, and make sure your kids is prepared for that with you, so they won't be lost in the sauce while you ready.
Right. But yeah, my heart goes out to those anybody who loses their life to unjust violence. But the children in Uvalde, that one hurt. That hurt. Anytime innocent children's life. And why did he go to the school anyway? I get that he had the altercation with his mother, but why did he head to that school?
I don't care what type of, I have no idea, but altercation with your mama ain't got nothing to do with these kids. I know they said something about him having mental health issues and him being bullied and so on and so forth. But I highly doubt that you was getting bullied by a bunch of kindergartners, first graders, second graders, anybody in that dang on school you wasn't getting bullied by. So I don't know why your little punk ass went over there anyways, messing with them people. But nonetheless, that's what happened.
You know what I hate about that mental illness argument? It's a go-to for those
Yeah, they
individuals.
gonna use
And
that
it
on
pisses
anybody
me
and
off.
everybody.
It pisses me off because at some point in time they tried to say that about the Peyton guy that did the Buffalo shoot. You from the idea of him sitting on this temporary insanity bullshit. You don't send out manifestos. You don't send out memos about what you're gonna do. Strap up in all this war type gear. Put on this GoCam or whatever GoPro, whatever he had on his head. Log into the Twitch account and commit the crime that you committed, and then get to hide behind an insanity plea.
Everything he did was premeditated. Everything he did was premeditated.
Cannot be temporary.
Exactly. Premeditated cannot be mental health and mentally insane, because guess what? People that's mentally insane, they're going to do it impulsively. It's going to be an impulse. Boom, I'm ready right now. Let's go. It ain't going to be a pre-plan.
It can't be temporary insanity. Temporary insanity is instant. It's instantaneous. It happens right now. It's in the moment. So you ain't doing all this strapping up and then commit the crime that you commit. And I don't even see how temporary insanity was able to come out of anybody's mouth. I don't even understand how he can even almost use this as a form of self-defense. It's total bullshit.
That's the truth. Because if it would have been one of us, we wouldn't have made it.
Nope.
We'd have been shot dead on the scene.
On the scene.
So
definitely. And that's another problem I have. Why is it so easy for a lot of them to walk out unscathed, with no injury? Just hands up, assault rifle strapped across their chest, just walking out, hands up, like all they did was steal a candy bar at the corner grocery store. So again, that goes back to when he's unarmed and you thought he had a gun, when he had a bag of Skittles in his hand, or when you told him to give me your license and registration, he reached in his pocket for it. Oh, he was reaching. You told him to give you his license and registration. How the hell was it supposed to end up in his hand if he didn't reach for it? So when you thought he had a gun, all of a sudden you want to be Billy Badass. But when children are losing their lives, those cops stood around like fucking cowards. Fucking cowards. And it's sickening. It's sickening.
Mm-hmm. And just let it happen.
Yeah.
And then had the people had the babies on the phone on a 911 call. It was one little girl that said she covered herself up and unfortunately in someone else's blood so she can be in disguise.
It's really sad.
Yeah. But yeah, the report
sad.
I got, there's been like 233, I think is what they said, mass shootings this year. It's just June, the beginning of June, and we've had 233 mass shootings. So to the Oklahoma guy, yo, for you to run up to a hospital over a bat, I don't know if it was the surgery, if it was something that happened after, if they weren't giving him any more medication. I don't know what the case may be, but for you to run up in that hospital over a medical procedure, and the fact that he bought the gun that day, so there was no, because I think they said that there was no delay. You could just go and purchase one, because he purchased it like a couple hours before he actually committed the crime, right?
Yes.
So what exactly, what was the issue? Because I know he deleted himself too. So how much pain were you in? And could you have been in that much pain running around with an assault rifle? You know what I'm saying? So if your back is the problem, how you just gung ho running up in a hospital, just aiming at folks and shooting like you crazy? So what happened? It really got me thinking about the state of the medical industry as well. And and I've said this before, one thing that COVID has exposed is that the medical field, it's been a lot of bullshit too. And I get it. I get it. We've all had issues with doctors. There's been a lot of doubt when it comes to a lot of things. I don't know if he was just in pain and they wouldn't prescribe him more medication. I don't know if something was wrong with the procedure that he had previously had. I hadn't been able to get that information or find that out, but it's just really unfortunate that for whatever reason he was reaching out to this doctor and wasn't getting the assistance that he needed, that he decided to take that route.
Mm-hmm. But that's quite a few people seem to just be wanting to take that route.
So that's real tough. To even begin to think about, because we're having all of this community violence, and on top of the community violence, we have to deal with um, self-inflicted violence, um, and then also domestic violence, and even neglect could be a form of violence. And I thought about, as we were talking about these parents that aren't watching the kids and the kids being able to get a hold of guns, I thought about how that's a form of neglect to
Mm-hmm.
young children, because they're not doing the things that are necessary in order to be able to protect the child, and protect the family. So they're basically neglecting them. And that's another form of violence that is prevalent, but that we don't usually talk about. The kids that do talk about it, when they see the other kids come into the building and they see that they don't look the same as them, or they may have a certain odor, or may not be as fresh, shoes may not be as new as everybody else's, so they'll talk about them, but it's not really something that is overall talked about until we see where children's services stepped in and came and took the child out of the house. So what do you think about how the impact of neglect, what the impact of neglect could have on the family or the child or even our community? Because it these acts of neglects are posing risk and causing community violence and putting our kids into the system. Do you ladies have any thoughts about how neglect affects the community as a
You
whole?
know, I'm gonna get on my fatherless home kick when you talk about neglecting the home, because I think that's another form of neglect. When it comes to no, seriously, when it comes to one parent alienating a child from another, because if you look at the school shootings, a lot of those individuals, a lot of those young boys, even the ones who are deciding to delete themselves, a lot of those issues are stemming from fatherless homes. So when as a parent, you alienate another parent intentionally, whether it be because of a breakup, regardless of the case may be, you are literally, statistically, you are raising the next generation criminal, because all the stats are showing that fatherless homes are generating those individuals that are more prone to commit suicide, individuals that are more prone to have a juvenile record, they're more prone to run away, have those mental issues. And a lot of these mental issues are resulting, like you said, in the domestic violence, gun violence, or whatever the case may be. So there are a lot of issues in the home that can cause children to go down the wrong path or develop mental issues in life that we don't know how to deal with. And as a Black community, that's another thing that we have to address too. It's that whole stigma around mental illness, the stigma around us not wanting to be labeled as crazy, or us not seeking psychiatric help or psychological analysis and things of that nature. We have got to get out of that stigma, because for the most part, first of all, the Black community has got a lot of healing to do. Um, but when it comes to other communities, it's sad to see that a lot of those individuals may not come from fatherless homes. But look at the Buffalo shooter. The idea that you're following this whole idea of the white race replacement theory nonsense and decided to go on a spree, to me, like I said, those are things that derive from home. Because, like I said on what was that last week's show, if racism doesn't exist in America, where does an 18-year-old develop the thought process that I've got to X out Black and brown people so that we can keep this white race replacement theory or whatever that nonsense is? If racism isn't prevalent in America, where do those thoughts derive from? So those are teachings that you acquire from home. That whether your parents sat you in front of the TV too much, whether there was neglect at home, whether your parents are literally racist themselves and have bred this in you, Those are things that I would attribute to neglect as well. It may not be neglect as in you're pulling away, but it's neglect as in you're feeding them the wrong information. You're leading them down that path to mental illness or to develop a hate towards another group of individuals, whether it be because of the color of their skin, their gender, their sexual orientation, regardless of what the case may be. How do you raise a child to hate an individual just because they're not what you are, just because they stand for something different that you stand for? As long as that individual isn't causing you any harm, how do we raise children to develop that kind of hate towards another individual?
So it seems like a lot of the conversation that we're having about violence, a lot of it is coming from home. Like a lot of it is stemming from backgrounds, things that happened at home, things that were taught or learned behavior patterns. I know for a fact because I'm a survivor of domestic violence, and I've been in um, a lot of unhealthy relationships in my life. Generally, when you are a survivor of domestic violence, you tend to go for um, more domestic type. So once you've had one, that's the type that you tend to attract. Um, I also know that in those domestic relationships, it was a pattern of learned or taught behavior. It was something that that person learned when they were a child. They watched their parents do it to their parents. You know, they watched their dad do it to their mom or their mom do it to their father. So they learned that it was okay and they thought that it was a good thing to be able to control the person that you are with. So I'm just wondering if there's a real correlation to the violence and everything that's going on in the world that we see today versus things that we're taught at home. Do you think that um, by teaching our kids, training them up the right way, not taking away the rights for them to have two parents in the home, that some of these things would potentially curb the violence that we see today?
I do,
I don't
and
know,
even if
ladies.
they're
What do you
not,
think?
yeah, I do. And even if the parents are not together in the home, because divorces happen, breakups happen, you have people that are having children out of wedlock. So there are going to be a lot of situations where both biological parents are not going to be in the same home. But you still should allow access to the child as long as there's no threat to the child's life, as long as there's no incest type situation, nobody's harming the child physically, mentally, or whatever the case may be. I feel like that is definitely a form of neglect. And a lot of our children are suffering because of that. And like you said, whether they're watching their parents fight at home, that's another problem I have though. Couples who stay together just because there is a child in the house. While I can applaud or commend the try, if there's violence or discord in that house and you guys are constantly bickering, constantly fighting, you don't know how that impacts those children. You don't know if this child is sitting in their bedroom listening to his mom and dad fight or her mom and dad fight and thinking that, is it me? Do they hate me? Am I the reason why they're fighting? Am I the reason why they're getting divorced? Am I the reason why they're not getting along? So staying together just for the sake of staying together can also be detrimental to a child too. But just because that relationship may end doesn't mean that both parents should not still have access to the child as long as both parents are willing to feed positivity into that child, to steer that child down the right path, be there for them, support them mentally, spiritually, emotionally, and all those situations. But yeah, I do think a lot of it is derived from what we're taught at home, what we allow in our homes, the energy that we allow, what we allow our children to watch. A lot of TV is detrimental to children's health. And I'm not for the cancel culture. I'm not for banning things, but I am for parents monitoring what their children watch. I'm definitely for that.
Amen. Me too. Say that. Watch your kids. See what they watching.
I agree with
Right.
that.
And
So,
don't
do you
assume
think
just
that
because
video games have an impact?
yes and no.
Go
I
ahead. Go
think
ahead,
they
D.
have I think they have an impact on weak-minded individuals. And I don't say that to throw out an insult, because I played all the crazy Grand Theft Autos and all that stuff too. Never made me want to go out and steal a car. I've watched a lot of content growing up. We grew up in the era of the New Jack City movies. It never made me want to become a drug dealer. So while I do believe that a lot of what you consume has the ability to mold you, I also believe that your parents have to instill in you that this is reality and this is entertainment. And we were taught the difference between the two. What you see on TV is an act. It's not real. Even the news that we watch, half of those stories are one-sided stories. You're not getting the whole story. It's told from a right-wing standpoint, a left-wing standpoint, a liberal standpoint, a conservative standpoint. So you have those issues too. So while I do believe that what you consume has a lot to do with who you become, it also still stems from your parents instilling certain values in you, that you know how to watch a movie, regardless of how much violence is in that movie, or play whatever video game, regardless of the amount of violence in it, and it not turn you into an individual that wants to commit those acts that you're performing in that video game. Because I never wanted to do any of that stuff I saw on TV. I never wanted to go out and just owning a firearm never made me want to go out there and commit a crime or to shoot anybody. Watching violence on TV never made me want to become a criminal. Watching New Jack City didn't make me want to be a drug dealer. But my parents instilled values in me that made me realize that this is fantasy over here. This is just reality. It's just for entertainment purposes only. And that's it. And I think a lot of it comes from they can consume it, but you still have to put something in those children that makes them they need to be able to discern those differences between entertainment and actual reality. And they need to be aware of consequences for their actions.
It's so true. I think that a lot of them do stuff impulsively because they don't understand the consequences of it. I like your comment, Stop the Foolishness. We love Gracie's Corner over here. For sure.
Gracie's Corner?
Oh, you're going to have to check it out. That's where my daughter learned her ABCs and numbers and colors, and that she's amazing.
That's on top of TV.
It's a cartoon. I'm actually, Gracie it's like maybe 5 to, I don't know. It's a little for little older kids, but Lulu is mature. So
girl, I am not up to date on
she likes Gracie.
Toys.
Yeah, it's a cartoon. They teach you how to count to 100 and your colors and all sorts of stuff. But it's a cartoon of color. So it was made by some African Americans. It's different than your average Coco Melon, because most kids nowadays watch Coco Melon.
I cannot stand that term African American.
What term?
At least not for me.
African Americans.
Yes, I do not like that term, because I'm just as American as the European American that don't call themselves a European American. So I was born here. My parents were born here. My grandparents were born here. I'm just as American as you. So stop calling. I do not like to be referred to as an African American. That pisses me off, because that's another thing that drives me crazy about this whole idea that America's not racist. Well, why is it that every other race in America is classified as a level of American? You got the Asian Americans, you got not European American, but you got African Americans. I hate that term. I hate it with a passion. I'm just as American as anybody else here. I got minimum 3 generations that were born on this land. So I hate that, because to me that's just another form of separation, segregation. You can call it classes, you can call it whatever the hell you want to call it. It's just another way to racially discriminate against somebody. I'm an American, point blank, period. African Americans are for the Africans who migrate over here. I was not born in Africa. My parents were not born in Africa. My grandparents were not born in Africa on neither side, whether my father's side or my mother's side. We're all born in America. So I'm an American, period.
Period. I'm an American.
That's just how I feel about that. I hate that term, because they don't call themselves European Americans, so don't call me no damn African American. Girl, is European American on the Census Bureau? When you fill out a job application, do you see European American?
No, they have Caucasian.
Right, but they're not called European Americans, and you didn't derive from here either. Not
No,
originally.
absolutely.
So
Nope,
don't
not
classify
at
me.
all.
I'm just an American.
I mean, I call them beautiful and wonderful and magnificent.
I feel you on
So
that. I feel you on that. I can dig
no,
that. I just
yeah.
don't like the term African American. It drives me nuts because it's divisive. And I don't like it because I'm American. I was born on this land. I'm fucking American. I don't care what I don't care how nobody sees it. I'm an American, period.
Born and raised on this land. I'm an American, period, point blank.
Yeah, see,
My mother
I
served
don't.
this country. I'm an
I
American.
haven't. I haven't done the whole family tree structure. I know that there are several different cultures within my family. That's why I just do the beautiful, wonderful, magnificent. Because, yeah.
Oh, what's the magnificence? Oh, never mind.
Hmm.
Never mind. I got it. Never mind.
Yeah, we just keep
Yeah, I
it
can be a
simple
Black
over here.
American.
Plus, my son goes to
A wonderful school or a blessed.
A more predominantly wonderful school.
Okay. Yeah, I feel you on that.
well,
But yeah, but it's sad though. And I agree. A lot of
some
it
people
does
are
come
offended
from.
by black and white, though.
Huh?
I was saying, some people are offended by using the terminology black and white.
And that's fine. And if they don't want to be classified as black and white, that's fine. I just don't want to be classified as an African American. I just don't. So yeah, for me, it's because of what it represents to me. And as long as you're not called a European American, don't call me no damn African American. I'm just as American as apple pie and slavery.
Shut up, not apple pie and slavery.
I identify with
slavery in
whatever
America?
they say is going to give me the money.
Say what?
I said, I'm identifying with whatever they said was going to give me the money for that week. I'm over here filling out grants. If they say they're giving it to African Americans, I'm African American. If they say that, I might be other.
I Kamala Harris. Don't make me Kamala Harris you. But she only took that black box when she wanted to get in that HBCU and when she wanted to be the first black VP.
Leave her alone. Let her get in her black box.
Listen,
hey, I'm just saying, don't make me Kamala Harris you.
Unlike Kamala though, I actually do something every day to help my people. So I'm not getting there and then utilizing my funds to usurp the ones that what do they call that, like the crabs in the barrel that climb out.
Right, so silly.
Mistreat the others. I ain't doing that.
But
I'm just I'm doing what the others do.
But Roxy, did you ever say how you felt about the bands, the rifle bands?
So for real, I disagree with them actually placing a ban on it. I do agree with them placing a limit on the age of people that are allowed to be able to purchase guns, and I more so agree that it starts at home for the most part. Like all of these kids that's killing other kids, hurting other people, they're getting it from home.
Yeah. Okay, but if you stop the purchase,
the struggle.
But if you stop the purchase, What is that? Like you said, you still got the kids that are getting a lot of these guns from home. They're getting them from the shoebox out the closet. They know mama keeps this under the bed over here. They know dad keeps this over here up under his favorite, or his lazy boy, whatever. So if you know those things, and that's the thing, if you're going to be in a house with guns and your children know where your guns are, you're pulling them out in front of your kids. How can you not
That's a
teach your
problem.
child gun safety? Why are your children not going to the range with you? I'm not saying that you need to teach them how to shoot, but if they're going to have access to I don't understand how we're not teaching gun safety to our kids, because that's the first thing we learn. If you go to class, if you literally
Yeah.
have to go and apply for a permit, you have to sit in that classroom and go through all that 30-6 training and all this other nonsense. The first thing they teach you is about responsibility and safety. So how do we have guns in our houses with adults? And you got 15-year-olds that have access to your guns that don't know shit about gun safety. They just out here firing and shooting.
Because they seen it on a game, or they hear it on the rap thing, or they hearing it, the rappers say how you shoot a gun, and they seen it on the YouTubes and all the other little TV channels and social media channels of where they can put the gun together and figure out how to buy pieces of a gun online and then put it together.
I
So
think
I
they
have a
put a stop
question
to that. You can't buy the kits
to
You
that.
can't buy kits anymore. I think they stopped
some-
selling those kits.
But you know what I'm talking about? They finally stopped it, but I'm saying they still gave them that put together type of thing. You know what I'm saying? You still gave it to them. Most of these kids are learning visually. They're not reading, because most of them don't know how to read. They ain't reading shit. Most of these kids don't even know how to read.
You
So
don't
they
have
are
to. You can
watching.
Google. You don't have to. You can Google everything.
Exactly. That's their thing. They Google, and their cell phone is smarter than them. So they not learning. They are learning, but visually learning how to do whatever that they want to do, whether it's steal a car, change a tire, you name it. Most of the stuff ain't going to be being a productive citizen what they're looking up. So they're finding all the negative things online, and they're getting access to it easily.
So, do you think that you should teach your child how to properly use the gun?
At a
How to
certain
load
age,
it, how to unload it,
at a certain
what
age,
the
yes.
rules of engagement are.
At
Because
a
think
certain
about
age.
this. Think about this. The wonderful individuals, they take their 5-year-old sons hunting with them. What's the difference?
I mean, there is no difference, because I would take my kids hunting, and that's what you would use. So if you're
Right.
in that type of situation, why not? You know, but most Black Americans, they're not living in farms. They're not living in that type of rural country area. So they're not thinking about that type of mentality of, okay, for survival, of eating, things like that. No,
Most
they're not
beautiful
learning.
people ain't trying to go out there and kill no animals and try to go skin them, and they ain't
Exactly.
trying to
That's what I'm saying. Like, they ain't even thinking on that level.
Hey, they better learn how to, because these grocery stores
Yeah,
about to get
'cause
naked. I'm just saying.
Trying to tell you.
You better learn how to go
oh
out
no,
there
they
and
not gonna be naked. They getting ready to. They getting ready to give us that GMO meat.
Oh,
They
God,
already
I'm
even
so
passed
not
the
with
law that
that.
said that they were allowed to feed us.
I know, I'm so not with that. Okay, so hold on. So how do y'all feel about the red flag laws?
No GMOs.
So for
I
me,
don't.
I think that it's not helping. There's a lot of the states that already have implemented the red flag law, and I think that there needs to be a more effective way of being able to handle and monitor the way that people get guns. Maybe even like background checks to make sure that people that have violent histories before aren't able to purchase guns, because they've been real lenient on conducting background checks when it comes to people nowadays. People just been going into the Dick's Sporting Goods and purchasing guns and going to go handle their business however they please. I think that there should be more restrictions, but I don't think that the red flag laws, it's been a law, it's been enacted, and I don't think that it's helped any, because like you said, we've had over 200 deaths since
No, 233 mass shootings.
last year.
Yeah, 233 mass shootings, and they consider
Yeah.
mass shooting where 4 or more people have lost their lives, excluding the shooter. So,
Yeah, I don't.
so for
I
me
don't
in
think
the
it's
red flag,
effective.
the problem I have with it is the portion on there where they're saying that anybody, whether it be law enforcement, a family member, a supervisor, a boss, or whatever, can basically go down to the courts and petition to have your guns temporarily removed from your possession. Now, the problem I have with that is a lot of you MFs be out here lying on folks just because. Look at the Amber Turd situation.
Yes.
So think about this. If red flag laws exist, that situation right there, she would have been a prime individual or type of individual that would have went down to the courts and petitioned for him to have, if he owned some guns, to have them temporarily removed from his possession, because you're a liar, because you got up on the stand talking about he committed this atrocity, he did all this, and you run around here taking whole shits in folks' beds like you ain't crazy. So for me, it's about the whole defamation of character and so many people lying. Back to family courts. How many women run down there and lie about the fathers of their children being abusive, being this, being that? So my problem with the red flag laws is too many people tell lies, and what that would do to impact everybody else. Would it just be used as a form of retaliation against somebody that you are mad at today? That's my problem with the red flag laws. And I'm not with that. I'm not with the tattletales just because you're mad.
That's exactly what it is. Say that again. I'm on the other side of the fence, you know. But yeah, say that. Like, I so feel you. Like, really, you will go down there and say, what? Man, okay. Yeah, like that hit straight home on me, like, for real. Like, tell them, sis. Woo.
And they strip all of your rights away once it happens. They take your rights.
All my rights.
They
Like,
take
what?
your-
Hold on. All he did was lie, though. Like, wait a minute. None of this was true. And y'all didn't even investigate to figure out if it was true first before you did it. You just believed them.
Right.
And took away all of your opportunities. So
Everything.
So since we're talking about people lying, you know that there is this big thing that's going on right now with Johnny Depp and his wife, with regards to the lying, him being abused,
ex-wife
being abused. So, you know, we talk about this a lot. We were talking about this today in the tax office when it comes to women versus men in domestic violence. So they say that a lot of times a woman, whether she's telling the truth or she's lying, if she goes down and she says that a man has been abusing her, that they believe him automatically. No question.
Automatically.
Man's going to jail. But there's a lot of men that are getting abused physically, and a lot of them don't say anything either because of embarrassment, humiliation. They don't feel like anybody's going to believe them. A lot of times they don't. So they were saying basically that men are less free. Men aren't believed at all. If I was a man and I said that my wife was beating me, nobody would believe me. Nothing's gonna happen. They laugh. They think it's a joke. They think it's funny. But if it was,
Stop the foolishness.
you know what? If it was,
but he's right though. He's right.
oh God,
he's right. People don't take it seriously, and it's sad because anybody can be abused, and that goes back to what I was saying on another show that we did about, you know, idea about men defending themselves against women. At what point in time does a woman hitting you, at you being a man, at what point in time are you not allowed to defend yourself against any threat? We were raised to defend ourselves against threats. Not black threats or white threats, not female threats or male threats, not human threats, animal threats.
Say
Just
that.
threats in whatever form they came in. So if you hit somebody, we were taught that if you decide to put your hands on somebody, you need to be prepared to get hit back. And while I'm not condoning the violence, what I will say again, a couple of y'all had got your little asses knocked out the first go round, we wouldn't be here today. Because a lot of women, matter of fact, I saw a video, Mr. Palmer had posted a video, and it was check this out, it was a video of a girl. These guys, it's a guy and a girl in a grocery store or something, and I don't know what they were arguing about, but she all of a sudden starts wailing on him, punching him in his face. She maces the guy. This whole entire time, this went on for like a couple of minutes, and when you're fighting, 2 minutes is a long ass time. So she's dragging him by his dreads, she's slapping him in his face, punching him, kicking, maced the man and everything. This entire time, this man had not put his hands on her. The minute he decided to defend himself, why did about 4 people in that store run up to him, like, you can't hit her? But she just spent the last 3 minutes wailing on this dude. And I'm sorry, he should have whooped her ass. He should have whooped her ass, because when you hit somebody, you need to be prepared to get hit back. Because if I was in the store, I would have bum rushed that bitch. Pardon my French. Because that's just wrong. How do you sit up here and watch a woman constantly hit a man and nobody feels the need to jump in because, oh, that ain't gonna hurt him? See it too. Just like when babies say, oh, that baby slap don't hurt. Shit. Baby slaps hurt. But you're gonna learn today, real young, don't put your hands on me because I'm gonna hit your little ass back. You gonna learn real quick.
Wait a
You
minute.
gonna learn real quick.
She just bang bang on the baby. Like, wait a minute.
I hit back.
I kids.
I hit back.
I'm not about to play.
The rock, I hit back. I don't care who you are. I hit back.
There
You're
was
gonna
a
learn today. Keep your hands off of folks. So you have a situation where men are ridiculed. Nobody takes them seriously. And a lot of them don't report it because I don't know if it's that male pride thing. You know, no man wants to say he's getting abused by a woman. But a lot of it comes from women going overboard because they're accustomed to the lifestyle or the environment that we live in, where men have been raised to not put their hands on women. And initially, no, you should just bottle your fist and hit a woman. But if she hits you first, I say all bets are off the table. And at that point in time, gender roles don't exist anymore. There's no such thing as gender lines when you're defending yourself. So the minute you put your hands on that man, the gender lines get erased at that moment. For me,
get bum rush, punched in the neck, punched in the throat, karate kick. Hi-ya!
So yeah, I'm glad that trial went down, because you know what I say, hashtag men too. Men are getting abused too. Men are being lied on all the time. They're being abused. They're being, you know what? When I was younger, I used to be the person that stood behind, oh, I can't stand the idea of a woman getting abused. I was so anti this, anti that. You know, anytime you hear a story of domestic violence when it comes to a woman, you want to jump to her aid. I'm gonna tell you what changed my mind. I watched a woman one day having a disagreement with her boyfriend. And when I tell you, now I counted 17 minutes. It had gone longer than that. It was just 17 minutes from the moment I started counting, because at that moment it had already gone too far for me. So from the moment I started looking at the clock watching, for 17 minutes, she berated this man. She called him everything but a child of God. She cussed him, spit at him, got up in his face, all that finger wagging, you ain't shit, threatened the man, I'm gonna get my brother, my cousins, my uncles to come up here and whip your ass, all this type of stuff. The whole time he's sitting down, she's standing up. So if I'm sitting down and you're standing up doing all this in my face, that's a form of aggression. So what he did was he stood up, right? And him standing up, literally all he did was stand up. She said, oh, you think you bad now? And it escalated from there. He still hadn't said anything to her except for get out of my damn face. This whole time, all he was saying was get out of my face, get out of my face. Finally, he was trying to walk around her. She jumps in his way. He says, get out of my way. She continues to stay in this man's way. He tries to walk out the door. She barricades the door with her body. So he tries to push through the door. She pushes him back. Next thing you know, he hit her. And she gets, oh, I can't, how could you do this to me? I said, I would have knocked your ass out 17 damn minutes ago. Period. I didn't see the gender lines at that point, because I done knocked your ass out 17 minutes ago, because you're going to get the hell out of my face with all that and aggression. And I think we've gotten to a point where women are so accustomed to men not hitting women that we've gotten out of control. And we've allowed ourselves to think it's okay for us to hit them and them not to retaliate. And I say bullshit. Anybody has the right to defend themselves, because all that bullshit about, well, he's not equally yoked to her, he's stronger than her. Well, then that's more the reason why she need to keep her damn hands to herself. That's no different from the Mike Tyson situation with the, Mike Tyson got that little altercation on the flight. And I'm like, so the guy was antagonizing him. Who antagonizes Mike Tyson? Why would you antagonize the Mike Tyson of the world? You know what this man's record is? What? So I say at that point, hey, all's fair in love and war. You get what you ask for. Period. That's what I say. Since we want to live in an equal environment, hold on. But Roxy, her being equal to him means he knocks your ass out, right? Because had that been a man overstepping his boundaries or pushing you out the way, nobody would have seen a problem with him hitting that man back. So as a woman, if you decide to step up in a man's role, when you want to be equal to a man, then you suffer the same consequences that men suffer. And I tell you right now, my brother, and if I had a son, he would be raised to defend himself against threats, whatever form they come in. So keep your hands off folks, period.
That's
I'm
real.
done.
That's real. I feel like that's a real statement, and more if it happened more often, like you said, then a lot of women wouldn't be in that situation. My domestic violence wasn't caused by that; it was just an abusive situation. So, but it would be the similar thing when it comes to people who tell lies on other people when it comes to things like abuse, physical, sexual abuse. A lot of women say that men abuse them in a physical way. And there's men that say that women have abused them in a physical way. But they take it to heart, all the way to heart. If a woman says that they were abused by a man physically, sexually, that man is going down. He's
even
looking
verbally,
at 18, 20 years easy.
Even verbally is an issue.
Yeah, but if a man says that he was sexually abused, nobody believes that. They, for some reason, just assume that if a man was abused sexually, he wanted it. Like,
hold on, how is that
men
possible?
aren't allowed to.
How is that possible when you got the stories of the teachers? Because there's a story of a teacher who was having an inappropriate relationship with one of her students. She ended up getting pregnant by him, and then later on, when he turned 18, she slaps his ass on child support. So what do you mean men can't be sexually assaulted or abused? That's bullshit. Because as a teacher, I don't care that if you're a teacher, you're 25 years old, you're a female teacher, right? And you got a 15-year-old, 16-year-old student in your class. 9 times out of 10, especially the environment we live in, they're probably already engaged in promiscuous activities. 9 times out of 10, they're probably already having sex, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're a 16-year-old boy who is already having sexual encounters, and then a teacher, because especially one of these build-a-body teachers now, you run around here with these two little clothes on in school, which I still don't understand.
Build-a-body.
So you got this situation where this woman, this 25-year-old woman, is making advances at this 16, 17-year-old boy. Just because he enjoyed the act does not mean this man wasn't taken advantage of. It doesn't mean that he wasn't sexually assaulted. It doesn't mean that he wasn't sexually abused, because that's what you all like to holler when you got that promotion at work because your boss made advances towards you. You like to holler sexual assault. So why is it not sexual assault when it's her?
Because they say men get hard naturally. They don't. Well, I'll take that back. They say that men get hard when they're aroused, when they're physically aroused by something. So they don't get hard just naturally. Like, they can't just get hard for no reason. So they couldn't have been touched inappropriately because
and that's what wonderful
they wanted
people.
Because they got
and that's
hard.
exactly what wonderful people say about women when they actually get molested, because they wanted it.
when they get touched and fondled, oh, they wanted it because it did what it was supposed to do. Well, it's a brain and a body. If you do something, it tickles, it feels good, it's automatic response. It has nothing to do with me wanting it. It's an automatic response to it. My body just did it. Not a little girl said she wanted it.
Even if you take out the body's natural response or the desire to want to engage in this activity, they got drugs for that. They got Viagra for that.
So
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
means that it
I'm
don't.
I'm not with the disparities in treatment between men and women when it comes to violence. I'm not with it. I promise you I'm not. Because as long as women want to keep fighting for equality, then you need to suffer the same consequences as him. And Amber Turd got everything that the hell she was asked for. I'm glad she had to pay that man $15 million for the defamation. I am so glad. I'm sad that that's not the only consequences. I promise you I am. She needs to be stripped of any career advancement because at for some point in time, Johnny Depp wasn't in any films because of the accusations she was throwing out there.
Hello, he got kicked off of the Pirates of the Caribbean. They said they was gonna put what's his name? The
Was it
wrestler.
Leonardo? Not
No,
Leonardo.
the wrestler with the big body. What's it? The Rock. They gonna put the Rock in for Johnny Depp. Oh yeah, they said they was gonna put the Rock in for Johnny Depp's position
Hold on.
as a
wanna see
Pirate
The
of
Rock
the
in no
Caribbean.
Pirates of the
Even a
Caribbean.
I don't either, because he doesn't. No one can play that but Johnny Depp. No one can play
Hold
that
on.
but Johnny
Even if
Depp.
you could find somebody, The Rock is not a Pirates of the Caribbean type actor.
Listen, I'm just telling you what they thought they was gonna try to
Nah.
do. My thing is, get that man his position and everything. Go ahead and put her off. They already voted
And
her off
strip
on
her of everything. Strip her
the
of
Aquaman.
everything.
They took her off the Aquaman too, so she won't be on that
So
one. A lot of other movies that she will not be playing on, contributing on. She lost a lot of sponsors and things like that, which
she
I'm
needs to.
totally up
She
for
needs to.
because, yeah, that was just totally wrong. And there's a lot of people that went to both his aid and her aid on some things. And I'm not saying that he probably didn't go through it, a lot of emotional roller coaster of being abused. You know what I'm saying? I'm sure he did go through a mental breakdown of being mentally and physically abused by his woman. You know, I do
But
remember
she was
that they were saying that,
manipulative.
yeah, they were saying even his ex talent agent manager said that he ended up letting her go, and she really doesn't know why, but I honestly believe that it had something to do with his woman, period. The stress and everything that she was giving him, it was just an overload for him.
Right. So I hear she complaining because she got to pay him that $15 million. They talking about her net worth ain't was $7 million. Baby, Walmart always hire her. I have zero pity for Amber Turd.
Listen,
Absolutely zero pity for that woman. I say lock her ass up.
For the rest of the time.
I was gonna say this. So you think that there should be more strict rules and regulations when it comes to women who lie
Yes.
and
Yes.
say that
Yes.
not abuse, or
Whatever.
say they lied on a man, said that the man physically abused them. What if a
Yeah.
woman just lies on this man and says that the man abused her? Because we got a lot of men out here that went to jail for 18, 20 years on something that didn't even happen for real. Like the women lied on them and said that they did it. They went to jail. Now they get out and come to find out the man wasn't even in that place at that time with that lady to commit the crime. So should there be consequences on the women who tell those lies on those men? Just
not just consequences. I think she should have to suffer the same consequences he would have had he been found guilty. So if he had been found guilty of this and would have served 18, 20 years, she ought to get that same sentence. That'll stop all of this nonsense. She ought to get exactly what he would have gotten had he been found guilty. Period.
Bet you'll watch your
so what
mouth.
about the ones that get
Right.
then later on are innocent? Like those four guys that they ended up you remember the story? They made a movie about it too. I can't even think of what
What
the
four
movie
guys?
that's in my mind. There was the guys, it might have been five.
Oh,
God,
you
what is the
talking
name
about
of the movie?
oh, You talk about the one that Trump weighed in
They
on.
were supposed to have,
You
they
talking
were
about
supposed to have to
those
touch
those
that
young black
girl,
boys?
Mm-hmm.
and then they spent all that time in jail, and come to find out that they didn't even do it at all.
And how do you
Do
right
you
that
think that the
wrong?
council they should have went back and got the,
How do you right that
that's what I'm
wrong?
saying. How do
You can't give me enough. It ain't enough zeros and commas to right that wrong. These individuals have lost out on their entire lives. They were criminalized as children. You can't right that wrong to me. But and honestly, like I'm an eye for an eye type of person. I believe those boys should have been able to take out whatever retaliation against them is that they wanted to, because there's no way to right that wrong. You lost all of that time. You can't get any of that back. You just can't. I don't care how many dollar signs you throw. I don't care what you offer. There's no way to repay those individuals for that. No way. Matter of fact, there was a story of a woman, a wonderful woman in California. She had a situation where she was saying that she had been raped, and the what do you call it, the beautiful man or the black man. So this guy is a guy serving time in prison, and guess why he was serving time in prison? Because she dreamed he was the one who committed the crime. They locked this man up
Oh
over a
yes,
dream.
I remember that one.
Man sitting behind bars
Yes,
over a dream her ass had.
because she seen him
what the
after
fuck,
she had
Kate?
that dream. Remember,
Right.
she seen him after she had the dream, and she had got nervous. I'm like, oh, and then she reported it. But you had got nervous over your dream of just seeing this man. You probably seen him beforehand, and then seen him after your dream.
Sitting
But it had
behind
nothing to do with
bars.
him in your dream.
The Emmett Till situation. It's a ton
That
of
too.
false accusations out there. And I'm sorry, those women ought to
That
suffer the same consequences. Those men, either if they never went to jail or they weren't found guilty, she should suffer the consequences he would have had he been found guilty. And if they are and time was served, hey, I feel like, hey, this is whatever you want it to be, sir. If you
Well, I know
good,
some
you
other
good.
things.
But I feel like you ought to have whatever justice you desire, because you can't give that back. You can't give 20 years that you robbed of somebody's life back. You can't. And
Not
then you
at
throw
all.
so it's
about
an eye for an eye.
society.
Then
Oh, I'm definitely. You know what? I'm for the idea of the eye for an eye. The reason why I can't get behind it is because I know of the racial disparities in the judicial system. So I can't support it because I know what that means. But outside of that, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. But she ought to have to deal with that. Whatever he would have been charged with, she ought to have to suffer them same consequences. And if he's already served time in jail, that man ought to be able to pick what consequences she suffers. Period. I don't give a damn what they are, because you can't give that back. You can't pay that back.
Mm-mm. They may have been trying. They giving people millions of dollars.
I don't give a
Wrongfully.
damn how. It ain't enough commas. It ain't enough commas or zeros to give that man them 20 years back that you stole from him, because this bitch had a dream.
that's crazy.
Because this
That's crazy.
bitch thought she was Martin Luther King. All of a sudden, we got to go ahead
That's
and make.
so crazy because
I mean, that's the first thing I thought of. Like,
so we was having
like,
this
wait a minute, because this bitch just had to be what Martin Luther King one time. We got to really.
I mean, I really didn't think that was a thing. I mean, I know that me and my honey be joking around a lot, and he'll say, like, you dream about something, and women get mad in real life, wake up mad in real life, like mad that they
That is
do
the
because
dumbest
stuff
shit
that happened
ever.
in the dream.
That is the dumbest shit ever.
But how do you dream?
That's a dream.
Somebody did something to you.
But yeah, this man was serving time in prison because she had a dream. And how do you give that back?
Like, that's
How?
crazy.
Don't punch
So
that bitch in the head.
to me, justice is whatever he says it is. Period. And if you say you're good, okay, fine. But justice is whatever you say it is. That's how you write that.
See, so if people were
Like
stealing
take
back
her out
and
into the
people
yard.
still, look, if people stealing, chop their finger off, right? We back to those days.
Yeah, but like I said, the reason why I
I
can't
mean,
stand
what you
behind it
mean them
is
days
because
in Saudi Arabia, they still chop your feet.
right,
Yeah.
like I
I'm
said, in
sorry, D. Go
America,
ahead.
I can't stand behind that because I know about the racial disparities and I just can't. It's
In
too many
America.
innocent people locked up behind bars. So that's why I can't fully support that. I agree with it. I just know our judicial system is shit.
Absolutely.
I don't think, I mean, so there's a lot of people that have gone to prison and been rehabilitated from it, but there's a lot of people who have gone to prison and became bitter because of it too. And it didn't do anything to help or change their situation. They got out and ended up right back a couple years later.
Mm-hmm.
I think, like you said, the disparities, the treatment is unfair, and even on the inside, the way that it's segregated and separated out makes it hard for you to be able to go in, learn the things that you were supposed to learn while you were there, and then come out a renewed and just person. I just,
But if
I,
recidivism is so high,
and I don't
is prison an actual rehabilitation center? If you have
No.
more people, if you got the 3 strikes and more people that are going back to prison, if recidivism is so high, then I blame the prison systems because what are you rehabilitating? If I serve my time, okay, so you got a legit criminal. They've admitted to it. There's all the evidence points to it. There's no question about it. This crime was committed by this individual. They admitted to everything, right? This person serves their time, they're 10, 15, whatever their sentence is. And they're getting whatever education is in prison behind bars and all this type of stuff, right? If you are a rehabilitation center, if after you serve your time, if upon release you are a rehabilitated individual, why is your record not wiped clean? So if I serve 15 years in prison, right? I'm rehabilitated, I've served my time, everything is all good. How am I supposed to get out and be a contributing member of society if I got this 15-year record on my hand? Most of those individuals can't do anything but resort back to a life of crime because nobody wants to give them a chance. So if we're really a rehabilitation center, why do we keep dangling these crimes over people's heads?
Mm-hmm. Need that money.
or even let them out after 15 years, put them on probation for an additional 5 years,
I
and
was about
then
to say, because
give them
that's
no
why they
leash at
can't.
all.
Yeah, how is that person going to make anything of themselves? What else is that individual to do when they can't get a job because they got to sit up here and discuss what happened? I don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that you should hide from your crimes. I'm not necessarily saying that. But if it's a true rehabilitation center,
Mm-hmm.
then how is it that when these individuals get out, they don't have any more often than not, they don't have anything else to resort back to other than crime that got them there in the first damn place. So
Mm-hmm.
what are we rehabilitating again? I blame the damn prison systems. I blame them.
They're not rehabilitating. They're keeping them.
Because they need.
Right. They
keep
just
them free
cash.
money, free
They
labor.
nothing but cash cow. All the prison industrial system is slavery reinvented. That's all the hell it is. It's slavery reinvented, rebranded and renamed.
By private owners so they can make more money off of each individual person.
Right.
Like it's getting away with it's not taken away from the federal dollars, but federal money is still going in there to supply that, to give them that funding as well.
Right. But that's just
Population
like
control.
right, but that's just like them criminalizing the homeless. So you set up here in Tennessee, you evicted all these more blacks, more black and brown faces than not, because in Memphis 66% black, I believe. So you evict all these individuals because of all these moratoriums you put in place. You know, COVID happened, people lost their jobs. Some people just irresponsible, weren't paying their rent. But you evicted all these individuals, and now all of a sudden you're going to criminalize them and put them back in the prison industrial complex in order for you to have slave labor. Because you ain't finna tell me that that's about anything else. So all the states are most of these states are broke, whether they want to admit it or not. And you got this issue where you have a lot less employees everywhere. It's not just in restaurants, it's not just where you work, it's everywhere. States have lost a lot too. Because you shut down the economy, you don't have all the tax dollars coming in that you used to have coming in that was helping to fund the state. So you've criminalized homelessness in order for you to turn these men who have committed no crime at all other than being kicked out. Now all of a sudden you're using them for cheap and free labor. Like I said, I blame the prison system.
Yeah.
They need them to make them license plates and make all them other little whatnots for them.
And so think about the individual who does a bid. But think about the guy who does a bid because he got evicted, right? You didn't serve whether it's 90 days, 100 days, a year, whatever the case may be, whatever sentences they passing down. And you know for a fact you have committed no crime. You literally were struggling through COVID. You were trying to make your bills on time. Life just happened to you. All of a sudden you've been evicted. Now you're being criminalized. I don't care what your sentence. I don't care if it's just 90 days. I don't care if it's just 30 days. How is that individual not supposed to be bitter? How is this individual supposed? I'm not saying that it's not possible, but how do you criminalize people by the masses for nothing more than getting evicted, and you expect them to be a contributing member of society after that? You expect them to uphold the same laws and the same pride for America? How does that happen? When you're criminalizing bullshit, but you got the Epsteins and his other world running around.
They stop talking about that quick if you haven't noticed.
Girl, I'm so done with that. And that's another thing. So the Amber and Johnny Depp trial. Wow, don't get me wrong, it's been very entertaining. I would have much rather y'all televise Maxine Ghislaine trial than John, because I'm sorry. How are we trafficking children across waters to private islands where there are no laws? And this ain't highly televised? How? Yep. Why do you not have the right to hear what's happening to our kids? Just like Prince Andrew, when he said that he was not guilty of participating in all that, the minute you say not guilty, you should be able to come back with no plea later on. We're going to hear this entire trial out, sir. That is such bullshit. I wanted to see the Maxine Ghislaine trial go down in real time. I wanted all the names to come out, but they hid all the names. Matter of fact, even with the witnesses they brought up, they only brought up witnesses that weren't name dropping. That's bullshit.
Exactly.
So y'all don't want nobody know how many times Bill Clinton's name was on that manifest.
No, that's mass hysteria. They don't.
How any of them presidents, any of the senators, the city councilmen, all of them. I don't just want to say one president. I'm saying all of them. Anybody during the time Epstein had his money. So if we're going to say Clinton, we're going to say Bush. We're going to say them all. The first Bush, the second Bush.
They had money then.
Right. Like the first Bush, the second Bush. Let's go. What we going to do? We're going to name them all then.
Yeah, they should have dropped names. So, but see, that's what I'm saying. So you take a homeless man and you lock him up, use him for some cheap labor, but you got these individuals that are running around, and we're talking about trafficking children. It goes back to the whole Uvalde shooting, where you got officers of the law, sworn to protect and serve, sitting on their asses, scratching their noses and shit, while children are being slaughtered. I blame the prison system. I blame everything about it. All of it. Because it's all bullshit.
And did you hear about dude get I forget his name that quick, I'm sorry. But I'm gonna let you know, old dude wanting to had a couple more guilty pleas, or I think it was some more evidence coming up for him I guess,
Who?
doing pretty much the same. I can't remember his name. The same thing he did to George Floyd, he have done to other people. He has pending
Oh, you're talking
lawsuits
about Derek
on the
Chauvin?
same. Yes,
Derek
him.
Chauvin?
He
That
has
piece
some
of shit.
pending. Yeah. Thank you. Well, no, he has
Yeah,
some
that
new
piece of
pendings
shit.
on him now. To the same ones, the same thing that he did to George. He has pending ones now, pending lawsuits against him. I'm like, oh
That's
yeah,
another
eventually it was
thing.
gonna come out. How many times he done did it to so many other people? It's about to come out with
Right.
all of them.
He's got a
All
few.
of them.
He's got a few.
Yeah,
He's had multiple
he's got
complaints
like 3
against him
or
during
4
his
of them. Yeah,
career.
he got 3 or 4 more.
So how do you applaud that activity, but you criminalize homelessness?
Because I'm gonna tell you, they don't care about homelessness in the community unless it's affecting the city. And even when it's
Mhm.
affecting the city, you know what they care about? They care
The
about it being a public
visualization,
nuisance. They
right?
care
The
about it when other
visualization.
people start complaining about it. When people start complaining about them standing outside, when they turn around and they pedaling their cars, if they're holding up traffic in the middle of the street trying to get change, if they're parked they tent in a public location and it's visible and they want them to get it up out of there because it's an eyesore. That's what they care about. They go and they set a sticker on top of their little red tent. They set a red sticker on that little green tent and make them leave. They give them an eviction notice for homelessness. Like, yeah, you got
To
like 3
vacate the
days to
premise.
get up out of here, and we're gonna throw all your stuff away, like you ain't already homeless. Not okay. Come over
And
here.
you
We
see
got
why
somewhere for you and your family to go, but you ain't got to go home since you ain't got one. But you got to get the hell out of here.
Roxy, hold on. What kind of low life individual do you have to be to walk out of your $2,000 a month high rise apartment and complain about somebody who's unfortunate, who's been evicted? What kind of low life do you have to be? Seriously, don't get me wrong. I understand that it is an eyesore.
They're
I
not
get
thinking
it.
this low life. It's a high life. They live it high. In high
I'm talking
rise.
about the mentality of that individual who comes out they $2,000-3,000 a month high rise and complain about somebody who's trying to figure out how they're gonna feed themselves. How do you get the galls to complain about something like that, you little uppity heifer? That shit pisses me off because nobody wants to lend a helping hand to these individuals. Now, while some of them, like I said, during this whole COVID thing, a lot of y'all was just irresponsible. So I don't have a pity for the ones who just was out there living their best life, going to Dubai and
Right.
spending money on these build the bodies instead of paying your rent. I don't feel sorry for you. I promise you I don't. But there are individuals who are unfortunate. And it seems like we only care about homelessness, like you said, when it's an eyesore or when it is because of a natural disaster, like Hurricane Katrina. You cared about all the displaced individuals there. But we've had, homelessness has been a pandemic forever. Homelessness has been a pandemic for decades, but nobody cares about the guy who's been sitting on the corner for the last 15 years. All of a sudden, you want to care about homelessness now because people getting kicked out because of COVID? Why? Why you care now? And what pisses me off about the cities and the states, so I don't know if this happened where you are, but a lot of states were putting down, so a lot of the homeless people were camping out in front of like bridges and bypasses and stuff, setting up camp. Well, the cities and states, now, y'all ain't got money to feed the homeless, but y'all had money to put the concrete spikes up. You know how much concrete costs? I tried to concrete the driveway before. I know concrete is expensive as hell. So the city had money to concrete up those areas where and they put like little concrete spikes up, and they were like maybe 4 inches apart. So ain't no standing up over there, ain't no laying no tents down, sitting down, getting comfortable, none of that, right? So you didn't have money to house these individuals or
Wow.
feed these individuals, but you had money to displace them. You could spend money on concrete spikes, but couldn't spend money on putting them up in one of these abandoned hotels. That's what the fuck y'all doing. What I said, I would rather my tax dollars put them up in a hotel. If you don't like the eyesore, put them up in a damn hotel. It's putting
Abandoned hotels. We got them.
You know what they told
Say it
me
again. Everywhere.
when I asked them for money to put my homeless families in a hotel? We don't have the money for that. Hotels are privately owned. We can give you $25,000 towards it, but the hotel itself is $4 million.
Hold on. Prisons are privately owned, but y'all got money for that shit.
Yeah, they got federal money to help fund that.
I'm just telling you what our
And they
council
get all
members
federal money
told
to
me.
fund that.
Government, city. That's what they told me when I went into these council meetings. I go meet with the city every week to talk to them about getting the space for all my homeless families. I got girls out here sleeping in cars in abandoned buildings with their kids. They don't care about that. They'll leave them out there. You know what somebody told me? Oh, well, it's a good thing that it's getting ready to get warm outside. It's not that cold now, so they'll be able to survive a little bit better. In the car with their kids.
But you know what? And how do you expect that not to breed more violence? Because if you're an individual who's literally struggling, you really hit a bump in life and shit just went down south real quick. You got kids you're trying to take care of and feed and move back and forth, trying to keep them in school and do everything that you can. If nobody is willing to help, at some point in time, this individual may have to go over to the theft in order to feed their kids. How do you think that that's not going to breed more violence in the future? The current environment that we live in today. I said it at the beginning when they first wanted to shut the economy down because of COVID. You do not want millions of Americans running around here trying to figure out how they're going to feed their children. You cannot unplug this economy and expect that everything is going to be honky-dory. What's going to happen is you're going to find out what kind of animals humans really are. We are animals to our core. And when you strip everybody of necessities, when you strip them of food, when you strip them of shelter, those individuals, while all of them don't, how can you sit up here and not expect it to lead to more crime? When people get desperate, desperation leads to a lot of violence oftentimes. So how do you have money? Yes, so you got money for bullshit like private prisons and all that, but you don't have money to house the homeless. You got money for concrete spikes, but you don't have money to feed the homeless.
They told me I had a better chance of getting money to fund my summer camp program. Do you hear me? They said, oh, we just gave out $16 million to fund summer camp. Go over here and apply for the summer camp money. But what these kids gonna do after summer camp is over? Yeah, I'm keeping them from 8 to 5, but what they gonna do after summer camp is over when their parents gotta pick them up in their car and go sleep at the park? Like these kids don't even kind of where to bathe at, and then you gotta pay money if you want to go and bathe at the truck stop. That it costs money. It's not free.
Right.
I done seen my family members, my family members, because I'll be taking them in. I'll be taking them. The one girl lost her child at the park because the little boy went to school smelling, like little kids do when they don't get the opportunity to be able to bathe every day. And the teacher asked them what was going on at home. And the little boy told him, like, yeah, well, I hadn't took no bath because me and my mama living in the car, and told him where they was at. And Children's Services came and took the child out the car. So now the mama not only homeless,
so how do
but ain't got no car, ain't got no kid either.
But hold on, how do we go from government officials, the president, all these politicians and celebrities sitting up here want to sit on single motherism and praise single motherism, but then you criminalize a single mother who's actually trying to do the best she can for her kids? How do we have those two extremes? How do they coexist?
Because they don't consider her to be trying to do everything she can.
Yo, remember the one woman, she had her kids in the hotel. She left her kids at the hotel while she went to work. She come back, the lady tried to, talk crap to her like, oh, you can't have them kids in the hotel. But she had one that was old enough to be in the hotel room, take care of the room, and they tried to call and get her in trouble. Thank God that, she really reached out and, did her whole spill because she ended up getting the housing and everything. But it's really sad that it has to go to the extreme. Like you said, it's really sad that people have to go to the extreme of just being homeless or just losing out on life right then and there, and then having their kids stripped from them. That's a lot. That's a lot. That make any woman go mad for real.
And even not strip, when you have situations like the formula shortage and all that, at some point in time, why do you think that violence is not going to ensue? Violence ensued. You the Tickle Me Elmo dolls was that I'll never forget it. It was the only year in my entire life that I actually went Black Friday shopping. I would never do it again. When I saw adults literally tackling people over a stupid ass Tickle Me Elmo doll, that was the first and the last year I ever did Black Friday shopping because that was just ignorant to me. So violence ensues when we can't get the things that we want. What the hell do you think is going to happen when we can't get the things that we need? And the current environment that we live in, with trucker shortages going on, with the cost of gas prices constantly going up, with these interest rate hikes going up, at what point in time do you not think that violence is going to increase? At some point in time, it's going to have to.
It's survival.
Desperation. When desperation kicks in, that's a different kind of individual. Totally different individual. When you are in survival mode, you are a different individual. The animal nature in us tends to come out. And we are living in times where there are a lot of struggles going on, where there's food shortages, people can't afford gas, people getting evicted. You got all these different political views going on right now. You got the gun violence that people are witnessing and people want to retaliate. You got the racial issues that are going on and people are wanting to protect themselves. Nobody trusts anybody. How do we think so you got Biden trying to build this whole picture of euphoria in America, right? This idea of safety. What is safety actually? And do you actually believe that we can live in a safe, risk-free environment?
Not up under man's rulership.
No,
not at all. We have not figured that out because 8 times out of 10 we be for self. So it's about what works for us, what makes us feel good, what we need, what we want. It's not about what's good for everybody as a whole, and then what's good for some is not good for others. So that's saying it's like it's hard to please everybody. That's tough. It's really tough. But do you think that ways to at least curb some of the violence that goes on in America? And if so, what would be some of those ways? What can we do, y'all, in order to be able to try to help and not be part of the problem, but help to be part of the solution?
In the environment that we living in, good luck. Because it doesn't matter who you are, where you sit. There's not necessarily a threat around the corner. Okay, but since we're all melanated individuals, I'm gonna talk about Black folks. When you hear the stories like Buffalo, and you live through the whole Derek Chauvin situations, and you see the racial disparities and how we're treated. And I've always said the difference between the Wonderfuls and the Blacks is that they teach their children what it means to survive. They teach their children the cost of freedom, even if that comes at the cost of your life. And we teach our children to obey in order to survive another day, or the hopes of surviving another day. So as you start hearing more and more of these type of stories where Black individuals are feeling defenseless, we feeling attacked, and we have been attacked for a while, but it always seems to like it's hitting us at a force right now. When you got this whole race replacement theory thing going on. So you got those type of shooters. You got the administration acting like America's not racist, but you didn't sign the whole Asian hate crime bill. So how the hell we have a bill about a race and America's not racist? How can America not be racist, but you have a bill that you currently signed that is about a particular race in America? So if the Black community starts to feel more targeted, and you're starting to hear a lot more conversation about the Black community needs to arm themselves, they're arming themselves because they're prepared for something else that may come. And as things worsen, as inflation continues to go up, as these interest rates continue to go up, and people start having less and less opportunities to feed themselves, take care of themselves, house themselves, clothe themselves, or whatever the case may be, more and more people are going to start to become a target. And it doesn't have to be racially motivated. But just the idea of you trying to figure out how you're going to feed your family, or how you're going to get through this, or how you're going to make it through that. people start to get desperate. And when people become desperate, when you have a higher percentage of population becoming more desperate, more and more of us are going to start to become victims. And as more of us start looking at all of this data and realizing that, wait a minute, danger is literally lurking around the corner, feel like they have to take a defense stand. Just like, okay, with all the gun violence, you got politicians that want to ban the guns, ban assault rifles. Canada has taken it straight. Canada has banned all firearms, period. They have banned all firearms from entry, use, purchase, sale, gifting, everything. They have just totally banned. But that doesn't curb violence to me, because just like one of the data sets, there are more people die from knives than die from assault rifles. So putting those kind of measures in place isn't going to curb the violence if you don't address the issues that lead to violence in the first place. If you don't fix the homelessness, if you don't fix a lot of these situations that we're currently in, how do you curb the violence without dealing with the situations that cause the violence? And nobody wants to talk about the situation that caused the violence unless it's a wonderful individual they want to holler about some mental illness. But you're still not fixing that problem. Because if you're not fixing the fatherless problem, you're not fixing the problem that these children are suffering every day. So at some point in time, we got to start getting down to the root of what is leading to the violence, what is making people want to be violent, whether it's racially motivated, whether it's just survival mode, whether it's religiously motivated, whatever the case may be. You're going to see, matter of fact, with the whole Roe v. Wade thing coming back up, there was a moment in time where the Roe v. Wade battle got so heated that you remember when people were bombing abortion clinics. That's violence, because that's religiously motivated because of how people feel about this. And that's another thing. You're pro-life over here because you don't think that she ought to be entitled to an abortion, but you're taking a life over here. So what pro-life are we again?
Exactly. Say that.
So if you don't address the problems that contribute to violence, you're not going to curb violence by taking away what you call assault weapons or just criminalizing individuals. That's not how you deal with violence. It's not how you solve the problem. By taking a gun away is not going to stop violence. We had a 10-year ban on assault rifles. You know what they said? They said it reduced firearm homicides by 9 people per 10,000. What the fuck is 9 people per 10,000? When you had a 10-year ban on assault rifles, what is 9 people annually? What the hell is that?
9 people.
Annually? Really?
Oh God.
9 people.
And it's too much tensions going on. You still dealing with the whole COVID tensions that are going on, with people feeling like you either have to be vaccinated or you have people now talking about everybody's got to wear the mask again. There are too many extremes going on right now. And honestly and truly, as much as I hate to say this, I see violence being on the incline until we deal with these issues in America. Politicians need to stop spending money on bullshit and start fixing some of these problems in these cities and in these states. And I'm sorry.
Absolutely.
I feel sorry for you, Ukraine, but I'm tired of my $10 going over there when we got problems over here in America. I am an advocate for helping your neighbor, but not while your children are at home starving. So until we fix America, you can't fix nobody else.
Say that one more time.
But
You
see,
can't
as
do
part
it.
of the United Nations, they don't
That's
have no
the
choice.
problem. I've been
So,
screaming this
see,
whole
that's
entire
part of that.
time.
That's part of that treaty that was signed. If we part of the government, if we are part of the United, as long as we part of the United Nations and we have to help one another,
Hold on.
we'll never be
Hold on.
able to.
If I live in a gated community, that means my neighbor is part of my community, right? But I'm not going to feed my neighbor while my children are at home starving. I get it that you can be part of a big picture, but America, okay, you know what it looks like in the current situation that America's in right now, with all this nonsense going on, with talks about stolen elections and all this craziness, right? You know how we look to the rest of the world, and then y'all want to be the saviors. Y'all need to fix yourselves first. That's why you got Europe responding the way they respond. Germany responding the way they responded because America full of shit. America need to fix their problems first because ain't no other country got these mass shootings like we do. So while you over there trying to stop
Say that.
the
It's true.
Ukraine and Russia war, you trying to stop that violence. You ain't addressed the violence in America yet. Y'all are creating violence in
You
America
haven't even
with these
addressed the
bullshit
homelessness.
policies.
Yes.
Right. So I'm sorry. I
I mean,
understand
it's
that we
violent.
part. Go ahead.
Oh no, I was just getting ready to say it's violence right here in the United States backyard.
The front yard too, side of the house too, in the basement, in the attic, in the dining room.
In the basement
I,
too.
I almost stepped on a homeless person coming out of the White House. You hear me? Literally. That's how close they are laid out on the side of the building.
Right.
Sad. They might not be inside the gate, but once you open the gate up, they out there. It's sad. It's real
No, you
sad.
gotta fix home first. That's no when you're on a plane and they give you that whole instruction about if something happens, if we depressurize, you put your mask on before you put your mask on your child. You save yourself first. You cannot save somebody else if you are struggling. You can't save somebody that's drowning if you can't swim. That's not how that works. So until America deals with the violence in America and what creates the violence in America, the defamation, the Amber Heard or Amber Turd type stories. I'm sorry. At some point in time, if I had been Johnny Depp, Amber Heard would have had a real domestic violence story on hand because I would have decked that heifer in her eye. I'm just sorry.
Hold
But you
on.
got to deal with
Wait a minute, man. Did
Hey,
you
if I
did you
put,
just
hold on,
say
if
Amber Turd?
I would have Amber Turd. I would have decked that heifer in her eye because if I come home and my significant other takes a shit in my bed, we're gonna have a whole different problem in here. A whole different problem.
Amber Turd. I'm gonna whoop your ass. Say that again. Like, wait a minute. Did you just? Yeah, I feel
But
you
it's bigger
100.
than just it's bigger than just the individuals. It's the policies that we have in place. It's the money that you allocate towards bullshit instead of actually trying to address a lot of these situations. You're not addressing mental illness in America that's causing a lot of these mass shootings. You just want to holler mental illness when there's a court case coming up. But who the fuck is addressing mental illness issues in America? Who's addressing the homeless issue in America? Yeah, you put some signs up that say no camping over here because California did that slick shit. They didn't want to say that they were discriminating against the homeless, so they said no camping. Really?
Right.
That's what you did, no camping. These people ain't camping. This is shelter for them. How the hell
This is
can you
living.
call that camping? Camping is what you do for fun and leisure, not for shelter. But you got people from Cali, you got the
Yeah.
Pelosi's of the world, and all those California senators and politicians, the Kamala Harris. They ain't solving no real problems in America. They just up here on the stage with a microphone talking, but ain't saying shit, ain't fixing shit. Pelosi think down on her knee with the fist up with that dashiki or whatever the hell she had on. That what the heck? You ain't solved the racism problem in America yet. You've been standing
Not at all.
alongside John Lewis for the last 20, 30 years. You ain't solved the racism in America yet. So as long as black people are going to be targeted in America because of the white rape replacement theory, how do we address the violence in America if we're not willing to address the situations that contribute to the violence in America? Because nobody wants to fix it. They don't even want to talk about it till it happens or until it's time for an election.
It's true.
And it is time for another election.
Right. So that's another thing. So you drum up all these stories now. You want to focus on because shootings happen all the time. They don't just happen. They're not just happening today. They've been happening. But all of a sudden now, all the stories want to come out because we're dealing with a whole election. Biden wants to act like he's saving America, whatever the case may be. So you put people in an emotional state. Most people, unfortunately, respond in an emotional state. They act on emotions. So how do you curb the violence in America when you're constantly forcing people to deal with things at an emotional level. The Roe v. Wade fight is an emotional fight. The racism in America is emotional. But y'all keep peddling all this bullshit, forcing everybody to get in their emotions on top of the fact that there's a food shortage, on top of the fact that there's a fuel that there's a problem with fuel and people can't afford gas. So you put all these problems in here and then you get everybody in a damn emotional state. How the hell do you expect to address violence in America when you're creating the perfect recipe for violence?
I guess that'll be something we need to talk about again.
Which is why we have so much trouble right now with getting rid of the violence that we have in our community. That's why everybody's worried about being safe right now, because it's hard to be able to try to help something or make changes to something when we're not recognizing the problem. We're making things worse. So yeah, I believe that. I definitely believe that. So
yeah, I said that the other day too. You don't smell gas anymore. So I don't know what they put in it, but you don't smell gas anymore.
Yeah. Water. Something.
Yeah.
Something.
I just feel like they want to talk about the issues when something happens, but it's only in that moment and no one's actually really doing anything about it. You're just putting people in an emotional state. And how do you expect anything positive to derive from that when you're forcing people in an emotional state, especially in the current temperament of America today?
It's true. So in order to be able to try to put an end to the violence and the issues that we're having in America today, we have to understand and recognize the problems that we have, be able to come up with plans and valid active solutions in order to be able to curb those problems. And like you said, until we start to deal with the things that we're going through at home, we'll never be able to curb that violence that we're experiencing all over America. And I even think that it goes as far as addressing the issues literally in the home. So what we need to do is, when you know better, you do better. So
yeah, we ain't doing that.
Make sure that
half of us hide behind not one, but half of us acting like we don't want to know better.
Yes, that's true. But that's the purpose in us having these kind of conversations. So,
but I think a lot of that too is allowing the victimhood mentality. I think a lot of it is that a lot of people don't want to do better because they can rest assured in their victimhood mentality. Like the Amber Turd situation. You got an individual who has spent the last however many years defaming this man because as a wonderful woman, she's been allowed to be America's greatest victim.
Amber Turd.
I don't know why you laughing at that. Hey, somebody said, hey, because when somebody said they're gonna start doing the instead of saying number 1 and number 2, they're gonna start calling it the R. Kelly and the Amber Heard.
Right.
Right. But yeah, you in order to fix the problems at home, you have to fix the mentality of the individuals that are in those homes. And how do we get to that point? How do we get people to want to acknowledge the trauma that they've experienced and deal with that trauma individually before it's reverberated throughout their homes or throughout their communities and families? How do we fix the mentality of the individual in the home in order to start working on home? Because you can't fix the home if you can't admit your home is in shambles.
that's true. That's true. But a lot of us don't realize that, though. So knowing,
a lot of us don't have the people that
we don't know that that this is not the way it's supposed to be. This is the way we was raised. This is the way our grandparents lived. They lived worse than we do. So a lot of us think that we're at a better phase in life than those of our prior family members. So that's I was saying before I cut out that that's why we have to continue to have conversations like these um, in order to be able to educate. That's the purpose of our show, to be able to educate and to teach others about those things that they think they know, um, or to help them improve the things that they do know, so that they can become a better them, so that we can become a better us, so that we can have a better future. So,
I
yeah,
say get rid of the victimhood. You got to get rid of the victimhood first, because as long as people are allowed to rest in a victimhood mentality when they're not victims, I think that creates a lot of room for them not correcting their behaviors, not dealing with um, their responsibilities or being accountable for their actions. And I think that has a lot to do with what goes on inside these homes, and how our children are being raised in these environments where you have those situations.
that's true.
Because, like I said, if every time somebody lied, falsely accused somebody of something, if they had to suffer the exact same consequences had that individual, you cut a whole lot of that shit out. But we allow
A whole lot.
individuals, right? And not just women, but we allow individuals to rest in victimhood oftentimes. And I think that's caused a huge problem when it comes to how we manage our household or how we interact with individuals on a daily basis. When everyone can just go around pointing fingers at everybody else except themselves.
It's true. It's true. It's easier to point the finger outward, but it's hard to look at yourself and see that it's something that needs adjustments. It's just the way it
Michael
goes.
Jackson told you to look at the man in the mirror.
But
Michael Jackson
the
should
thing
be looking
about
in the
looking
mirror
at the
too.
man in the mirror though is because the Bible says you're supposed to look at the man in the mirror too, but it also says that you ain't supposed to walk off and forget what sort of person you are immediately, which is
Hey,
what a
some of
lot of us
y'all,
do.
some of them got them clown mirrors in the house and they ain't seen no true reflections. I'm just saying, some of y'all got clown mirrors in the house. Them circuit that house of mirrors that's got all them wonky mirrors that make you look distorted. And some of y'all ain't seeing what's actually being reflected back at you. Or
That
it's
part.
a lot. It's a lot of we're lacking
Right.
self-reflection. A lot of us are lacking self-reflection. A lot of
Yeah.
us are.
You see what you want
Ain't
to
that
see.
good?
That's it. And most of that is the only the good. We have a hard time seeing something wrong with us in real life, um, even in the little things. So, um, which is another reason why people have a hard time with being told what might be wrong with them. And I guess we probably gonna cover that portion of it when we branch off next week and we talk about relationships. So make sure y'all tune in and join us next week. Same time, same place.